Hi, my name is Nadiya Stapinski. I'm a Martha Beck coach, the attachment-based parenting coach, and a trauma-aware coach. And today I'm going to talk to you about 3 areas in which you should say yes to your kids, and you'll do them a great service. The first area I'm going to talk about is saying yes to their choice of clothes. Often enough, we feel like our kids are being so stubborn because they just won't wear what we would like them to wear. I've seen that in conversations with parents so many times. Picking what to wear allows our children to feel that they're entitled to a say in their life. They get to decide something because in a child's life, they don't get a say in so many things. Often enough, they don't get a say about a school or daycare they're going to go to, who they're going to play with or spend their time with, or even maybe which playground they're going to go to. And for example, being able to have authority, to be empowered about something in their life is huge for them to feel heard, to feel seen, and to feel like they matter. So allowing them to pick clothes they're going to wear is a very big deal. I'm not suggesting you to allow your child to wear a tutu skirt outside when it's February, or allow your 3-year-old to wear it to bed, even though I do know someone who did that. But you could let them wear it over warm leggings, for example. Or maybe if your child doesn't want to wear a coat, you can first let them out for a few minutes to make sure that cold actually settles in for them to really feel like they're getting cold. And then they might agree to wear a coat, or at least bring it with you so that eventually when they do feel cold, they would agree to wear it. This way, you're saying yes to their free will. You're saying yes to their creativity. Because it seems like such a simple, mundane thing, right? What am I going to wear? But at the end of the day, it's allowing them to express their inner world, their inner self as well, because maybe their taste is just different from yours. There were so many artists and fashion designers who were misunderstood at the beginning of their career, and only eventually, people found beauty in what they were doing. So the fact that you and your child have a different taste doesn't necessarily mean that their taste is not okay. And what's even more important is the fact that we want to raise people who hear themselves, who tap into their inner wisdom, who hear their wants and needs versus what the world tells them to do. And it matters to them what they want versus what someone else is going to think about what they're going to wear. So encourage it and empower your children. The second area where it's really important to say yes to our kids in is disagreeing with you. It's crucial to their growth and development to allow their thinking to be different from yours. And it can be very challenging at times. It creates this moment of discomfort where it's so surprising that our child is not an extension of ours and they have a different opinion, especially when it comes to something that matters to us. Maybe it's a sport team for you that you've been cheering for years, but they like different one. Or maybe we're even talking about political affiliations eventually when we're speaking about older kids. Yes, it can be challenging, but instead of squashing it, vice versa, encourage it, ask more questions, because this is what creates a thinking environment, and their option to disagree with their parents is what teaches them to think critically. So many people were not allowed this luxury of disagreeing with their parents, and they grew up into adults who just take the information and blindly consume it without actually thinking about it, looking at it from different angles. And for example, if they hear something from media, they just roll with it and they think that this is the ultimate truth. And it's pretty sad for our society because this is what it lacks: critical thinking and critical thinkers. If someone like Steve Jobs, who was very likely told in his lifetime multiple times that computers are not for personal use, they're created for work, and if he just blindly agreed to what people were telling him and didn't think for himself, didn't disagree with the society, I probably wouldn't be recording this video and you wouldn't be watching it, very likely on your phone. Some of you will tell me right now that there are plenty of people who were not allowed to disagree with their parents, but they still grew up into someone who is able to stand up for their opinion. You're right. because some will learn to stand up for themselves, and this is the lesson that they will bring with them. But others will just learn that their opinion doesn't matter, and maybe one day they will have this bright idea in a meeting and they just won't be able to share it because someone deep inside will just tell them, I can't disagree with my boss because I couldn't disagree with my parent. And how many times in your life growing up have you heard things like, don't get smart with me, or stop being a smart aleck? Some of us have, and we know what it feels like. We definitely don't want our children to feel that way. And Nancy Kline, in her book, Time to Think, says, children who grow up in thinking environments do treat the others well and live responsibly. I completely agree with that statement, and I do believe that that's what we want for our kids. We want them to grow up in a thinking environment and live in a thinking society, in a thinking world, and also be one of those thinkers. And the last area that's crucial for us to say yes to our children in is where we say no to them being themselves. For example, your child might be too loud for you, or maybe too quiet for you, too fast-paced, or vice versa, too slow, too meticulous, or not meticulous enough. What we don't understand is that people are born with certain inborn personality traits, type of pre-installed software. And by telling our children that, for example, they're consistently too loud, I'm not talking about moments when maybe your child is speaking over you when you're talking to your partner, and then you can just say, hold that thought. But when we're consistently reminding them that they're too something or not something enough, what we're doing and the message we're sending to our child is that you're not good enough, you're not okay being who you are. Dr. Gabor Mate, a wonderful Hungarian physician, and I highly recommend his work to everyone, talks about our two basic needs as children, our need for attachment and our need for authenticity. And often enough, our need for attachment trumps our need for authenticity. So we end up giving up our inborn personality traits, we end up giving up who we are for the sake of being loved, for the sake of this attachment, for the sake of fitting in. And sadly, it transforms and it continues on into our relationship, into our work. So we end up living not our own life because as children, we were taught that it wasn't okay. And maybe your child was loud and they were meant to be an opera singer eventually because of that loud voice, but they learn to be quiet and suppress that. First off, they might not become who they were meant to be. Second off, maybe one day they won't be able to stand up to this boss because they did not feel comfortable in childhood to stand up for themselves and use this loud voice. In my work as a parenting coach, I've seen people being upset about all sorts of things. Anywhere from someone's son being too sensitive or someone's daughter being too pushy, or vice versa, their daughter not liking Lisa in an Encanto movie because she's the strong one and her daughter needs to become feminist. Things like that. And it's very, very important to remember and keep in mind one thing, that our children are not the extension of us. They're their own selves, and work with our own triggers and try to understand, why is this bothering me? Why is that certain personality trait so difficult for me to handle? Is that because it's that different from me? Is it just this core value that I hold? And then what will happen if my child is different, and if I allow them to be different, if I can treat them with curiosity and try to understand why is it that this is how they are and who they are. So I hope that we all want to bring up happy people and a happy world. And those 3 yeses are really important on that path. Please subscribe and share this video if you think that someone else might find it helpful.